Hi there, and welcome to the Sheroes Collective podcast. I'm your host, Renee Sparks, and with me today is a phenomenal woman and an absolute Shero. I am so excited to introduce to you Amy-Rae Rispel, who is born and bred in Cape Town. She's the mom of a spectacular little girl and an aunt to two beautiful boys. And I have to just say, I couldn't have done a better job of her bio. Like, this is her own personal bio. She's a natural hair enthusiast and a proud feminist. She finds sanctuary within her family. The sea is where she finds her peace, and coffee and wine with a good book is what gives her immense or immeasurable joy. And she loves her feminine power and being a woman. I think that is an incredible introduction, but I'm not done. Growing up, she was always curious and forward. She wanted to know everything and understand why people did what they did so that she could help and make the world a better place. Naturally, it made sense for her to become a journalist because she was obsessed with reading, and she's also considered an empath. So now she runs around behind the scenes doing a lot of work, actually, and as a producer for the Views and News show with Clarence Ford on CapeTalk Radio station. She's worked as a radio producer for close to 10 years. And she loves her job. I think it's all about that networking and meeting gifted people. And I'm going to stop there because we want to ask you all these questions. So welcome, Amy-Rae.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. I mean, when we've been speaking about having these discussions, I'm like, when am I meeting this woman? So yeah, very, very excited. The one thing I didn't add, and that is a little bit of snooping, is that you're not just a talk radio producer, but you an award-winning talk radio producer. So let's add that part, please. You need your kudos for that. But without any further ado, I'm going to go on. You mentioned that becoming a journalist was a natural choice for you. Was there anything specific that kind of inspired you, or any people who inspired you to take on this path?
Absolutely. There were many factors that led me to journalism, but one throwaway comment from my mother. I'm the eldest of 4 kids, and I'll never forget this. It was the school holidays, and I was tattling on my siblings, and my mother said, "There's no via a reporter," and that just stuck in my head. And obviously, at the time, I was like, "No, I'm not a reporter," but it stuck. It played in my head over and over and over again. And then we would watch the news, and I just found it fascinating to see them going on location, going to these incredible places, hearing stories on the ground. And that was what I was like, no, that's where I want to be. I want to do that. I initially thought that I would go into newspapers and magazine journalism, but God led me down a different path. And I really honestly believe radio and broadcast was where I was meant to be at this point in my life. And I just loved reading and writing. That's it. I'm interested in reading. I'm interested in knowing more. I love big words. Not that I use big words, but I love it. And I love finding out the meanings of words. And I enjoy writing. In fact, if I'm really upset, I will pen my thoughts on a note. And if I don't want to fight with someone or, have a really negative interaction, I'll rather put that in a piece of paper, write it down. Then once my thoughts are gathered on paper, then it usually assists me in saying the right thing in a more measured ways to keep composure. So that is what inspired me. I think around 9-10 when that happened, when it meant for me.
Oh my word. I'm laughing now because my dad used to call me a journalist. Whenever I walked through the door, I would give him the lowdown on everything. So as you're saying this, I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't listening to him when he said that, but I can see the synergies. So well done to your mom for spotting that and for highlighting it. And I love the tip you just gave around it. In a way, it is self-care, and in a way, it's also that composure. I think many of us just kind of fly off the cuff and start responding. So maybe that is one way. Go and write it, read it to yourself, and then see what that's like. Even set it alight, maybe it even just helps kind of release all of that, right? That's really good advice. I'm going to move on to, I think, what is very obvious. Like, you have this beautiful bush of hair. Like, really, it is the first thing I see. It's there. It is in the room. So you describe yourself as a natural hair enthusiast and a feminist. How do you go about creating opportunities to have difficult conversations? And I say difficult conversations because from a cultural background or from our community background, we know that hair is an issue, an intergenerational issue. It's constantly an issue. And like I shared with you earlier, I've got a team who's decided last year and this year, she's going to go natural. Earlier in the year, she got bullied a little bit into going back to straightening and regretted it. And now she's being completely natural. So I can see she's even stepped into herself, right? But how do we then stand together and kind of create those opportunities to have these discussions, inclusivity, so that it's the conversations had across multiple levels, so that people all get the same message?
I'll speak obviously from my own perspective, and then I'll broaden out a bit. I was a feminist from a young age, off the bat. And I'll tell you where it started for me. We would have family gatherings, and it infuriated me that all the aunties were working the whole day, cooking and cleaning and making right and faffing over the family. And whether it's Christmas, Easter, whatever, and the men just sat back and had the best time. They were having amazing conversations and debates and lach and dominoes in. And that's where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be in the kitchen doing dishes the 7th now. But none of them got up to help with the dishes. And it was, if it was not an auntie or a grandma or a mother, then it's the girl children. No, it's Amy's a beard.
Yeah.
What? So I just couldn't fathom that. I couldn't understand why is it always the girls.
Yeah.
So that's where it was rooted, where it started. And then later, when I got to university and even high school, I started reading about the first wave, third wave, second wave feminism. And I was like, oh, that is how, and this is what it's about. Also, my mother's generation, they were part of the women that were, keeping home and working. And I could observe in real time that struggle of trying to juggle both.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got a lot of my feminist ideals from her about having that ambition, having that identity away from motherhood, away from being a wife, just in yourself from her. Yeah, so that's where my feminism was started and rooted, right? But so I'm the eldest of 4, as I said, but I have 2 sisters, beautiful sisters that have stunning hair, and I'm the kinky. And growing up, it was such a thing for me. It was such a struggle block, and it made me I was so self-conscious about it, and I just couldn't understand why I have so much hair and so much kinky. And then I grew older, and then I also read I Write What I Like by Steve Biko, and that was one catalyst. There were several catalysts just before I had my daughter, but that was one catalyst that was like, gosh, I was given this hair for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with this hair, but what is it about it that makes me feel inferior, right? And then I had my daughter. I was still at varsity when I had my girl, and I think I was around 21, and I was pregnant, and one day I sat and I was like, I don't know how to take care of my natural hair, and I don't know how to take care of my hair, let's say unadulted, let's put it that way. I just know blowing and rolling in and flat ironing and all of that. I don't know how to take care of this hair as it is. And I'm having a girl, and what am I going to be teaching her? And how am I going to show her how to take care of her own hair? Because all these thoughts were going in my head. And then I had my daughter, and then the postpartum hair loss happens. I had a big bald patch on the side of my head. All of that just led me to, now that's it, I'm going to have a big chop, and I'm going to cut off all my hair, and I'm going to start anew, and I'm going to see myself for who I am. Luckily at that time, that's when the natural hair community in Cape Town sort of started a little bit. Cape Town Naturally and Cruise Rocks and these little groups. And there was so much information there, like washing your hair with conditioner as opposed to shampoo, the liquid oil conditioner or cream method to seal the moisture in, all of these things. And so there was some resources there was some people I could refer to, but it was rough, just having to face yourself in the mirror and unlearn things and start fresh. It was hard, but it was such a lesson in character building, in learning myself. I firmly believe every woman must shave off all their hair just to face yourself like that. There's no big earrings, there's no makeup, there's no hair. Just face yourself in the mirror. And there's nothing to hide behind. So you have to really, really face yourself. And that, going through that, and it was hard. My father was not impressed because he obviously comes from that. He's passed away now, but he came from that generation of, jou hare moet gejuge word and you must swirl.
I know when I told mine, my father's like, what must people think of you? So I know.
He didn't understand it. And my mom
must belong because you were a girl.
Yeah.
You must belong.
It was tough. But some of that, I would say, prepared me in a way before going out in public and so on, because dealing with some of that criticism and dealing with some of those questions and wonderings prepared me for when I did go out there and I had some skiff looks and I had some throwaway comments. But I really held fast. I was like, I have to know to help my daughter when she's here. And then God is God. My daughter has the most beautiful hair. So she's got this beautiful mix of curly, beautiful hair. And I was like, wow. Look at this. She doesn't have my strand, but nonetheless, it's fine. And that's what led me down that path. But it bothered me being part of the colored community, being an eldest girl child, the social currency that he has. And I got over and over again, I got disappointed because I was like, I'm worth more than my hair. This is not a reflection of who and what I am. This is just hair. So there's so much more to Amy than hair. This is, why are we talking about hair? There's so many bigger things to talk about. We've got intergenerational trauma between us. We are talking about hair. And when we talk about having babies or having a family or extending legacies, it's always about hoe gaan die hare uitkom en
think about that. Dink aan die nagevolges.
That is the least of your problems when we're having extending legacy. Is this a stable environment for the child? Have you gone for therapy? Do you have a support network? There's so much more. This is the least of your problems. So and then these are the kind of discussions we would have. And around that time, gosh, me and my father, we really rubbed against each other. But later on, I began to see he's just from another time. He's just from a different perspective. And I had to then learn about, forgiving your parents and understanding them and seeing their perspective, because it's all perspective, right? The things we go through.
Socially constructed, right? It was all about what was in at the time. They needed to conform at the time, and at the time, conforming meant.
Yes, and keeping it 100%. So, it was a lot of lessons at the time. But we started having those discussions here in the home, and I would push back, and I would say, but you're not gonna make fun of. You're not gonna do that, and then later, as time went on, one cousin went natural, and then another cousin went natural. And then one day, I'll never forget, I was at my dad's church, and this lady came up to me and she said, do you know, I've been watching you and how your hair is growing and how you're taking care of your hair. And I also want to go natural. And I was like, and I actually burst into tears, and I had such a lump in my throat because I was like, oh, wow. This is so beautiful. This is why we do this, to inspire others to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be, I don't want to say role model, but to be that safe space for someone else to, if she can do it, I can do it. And then you do that encouragement, and then she went natural, and then because she went natural, her daughter goes natural.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just beautiful. So yeah, and that's what I've done ever since. Now, so I have these long dreads now. My brother also has long dreads. My daughter, and this is interesting because this is how life is. My daughter's not really natural. She prefers having a hair straight, but that's her own journey. That's her own path, and it's fine because again, it's just there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I think what also really helped me is that I grew up in a home where my parents facilitated a lot of open discussions and family debate, and having my mom and father said they came from the big generation. They weren't allowed to freely speak. So they were very much, for them, they said, I'm going to raise my children with the freedom to express themselves and speak their minds and speak their truth. And, sometimes there is a, hold on, because you're
not too much truth.
But for the most part, it was very much, no, I would love to hear what you have to say, and why do you think that way, and what's your opinion? So we were very lucky in that way where I could express myself. And yes, there was a time I was very angry and very opinionated, but as you grow older, you also, like I said, you was writing down so that I'm not so I'm stumbling over my words here, so aggressive or argumentative.
Yeah.
I'd rather want to come at a more peaceful, calm manner. So that all subsided through, trying to just be more calm, trying just to release the anger, and just what is it that's triggering me so? What is that's setting me off? And then you realize, oh, actually, it's not even about that. It's my own demons that I must deal with. It's not about that person. It's not about what they've said. It's about me.
Yeah. But I think it's true what you're saying. A lot of what we're going through is this kind of search for who we truly are. And I think we struggle, and especially colored people. I think I've joined recently. We are 4 fellows that have decided we want to start looking at colored dignity, restoring colored dignity. So how do we do that? And we cannot do that until we have healed ourselves or have at least tapped into who it is that we are. And I think people are very confused. They think, oh, Rainbow Nation happened, democracy happened, you should be okay. But there's a part of you, a long line that you don't know, and that you need to know, and that you need to reconcile in order to show up. And maybe you don't get the answers, and then you have to be okay with that as well. So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm excited, and I'm glad to hear that there are more people tapping into who it is. And I think a lot of people are. I think COVID has also pushed us into paying attention to self and paying attention to mental health. And yeah, so that it's had a few good spin-offs.
Absolutely. For me, so I lost my dad during COVID, and it was very painful. It was tough, but I'm so thankful to have gone through that grief, because grief changes a person. It gives you so much more empathy. It gives you so much more understanding. Obviously, I'd rather have my father here, but it changed my perspective. It changed my life, and it made me really value the time that I have with my family, because after going through that experience of losing my father, it's so clear how little time we have left. And also worry or nonsense, man. There's so much more things to talk about. Why are we even worried about what you're wearing, what car you're driving,
how you look, the size of you? There's so many. Your bank balance, your job title. Oh my word, we can go on and on. Yeah. No, there's
on and on. Doesn't matter. Okay, it matters, but it also doesn't matter in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah. I think it's about that connection, because you've mentioned it as well. For me, even these podcasts is about connecting to that person, because within each person I've met, there's magic, right? And that person is here because they are doing something incredible, and that story will inspire. So I loved what you said about being that safe space to someone. I also disagree with, I'm also learning that language it can either make or break something. So I mean, the term role model, I remember it being used like when I was growing up very negatively. Like, Renee, can't you be as thin as that person? So to me, that role model was not supposed to be, something I was supposed to aspire to be. And it's not that. When you're talking about a safe space, it's this connection beyond. It's that woman that walks up to you and says, I think you're really brave to wear this and I would like to, how do I
Yes.
even start? So yeah, it's a very different conversation to, okay, I'm going to stop eating, lose weight and look like you. It's not,
Yeah.
it's so watered down.
100%. And it's something I've noticed. I can't speak for all communities, but something in the colored community that I really try to go against is the negative positive greeting that we do when we see our people. Oh, Jade vet geraak. And yes, that is in jest, and it's funny, but it's not funny.
But it's not funny. It really isn't.
It's not, and it does hurt. It does hurt. And even if you feel self-confidence and confident in yourself and you love your body, it hurts because you haven't seen this person and now you're meeting and it's like, is that the only thing you love me? Of all, ons het nie met mekaar gesien nie, and this is the only thing you can hop on. Nee man. So
no, we've got a lot of work to do there. I think again, it's about unlearning, right? And I suppose we have a responsibility to be taking people with us on the journey, because I am only learning now that there is this whole aspect of unlearning and that there's this whole group of human beings that are thinking in the same way, but maybe we're just not kind of focusing it in a way that's reaching more.
That was just so beautiful. From that I read about family therapy and something that you can do with your family that can just strengthen bonds, where you go around the room and you talk about the strengths and something that you admire about your relative. Like, and I'm sure you can relate to that. We're very quick to hop on, oh, you're so like this and you're so negative, but actually sitting down as a family and looking for the positive. And it's so beautiful when we've done it as a family, where it's like, I like how you a go-getter and you keep your word, and I like how you are so good with the tech and I can just call you. And then you start like looking for those positive things as a family. It's so beautiful. So we really try and reinforce that in our home, where we speak life into one another and speak positive. Because we want a different outcome.
That is nice. So it's rewiring the way we engage at home. And I mean, I've done appreciation sessions with others in workspaces, but I haven't thought to come home and how do you actually start it at home? Okay, yeah, I will definitely give that a thought. Thank you so much. It's been a beautiful conversation. I just want to ask you something about, in terms of the work that you do now, how do you go about to determine what a discussion is worthy of attention? Do you kind of try to strike a balance between positive or good news and bad news, or how do you determine what you're talking about?
No problem. So I'm very lucky in that the show that I'm working on right now is a blend of current affairs and news and a little bit of lifestyle. So we are very blessed in that we have the show sort of like segmented into different sections. And so there's a part or an hour for news specifically, and then a part or hour for the explainers and the psychology ofs and the science and the legal talks. And then there's a segment for the more fun, light-hearted stuff. So we're very lucky in that we can play with that balance of looking for doing all sorts of reflections, right? And in the past, I did work on fully hard news shows, and that is tough because it's fun. It's a thrill. It's amazing getting those news stories, getting the breaking news, but it can weigh a lot on you and affect your mental health, where it's like another accident, another rape, it's a lot, and it can really weigh your soul down. But for the show that we work on, Views and News, as the name suggests, we reflect the news. So we'll sit together as a team, and then we'll do forward planning, on the day planning, quarterly planning, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say, okay, right now it's Rugby World Cup. What are the other shows doing when it comes to Rugby World Cup? How can we, try to be a little bit different so that it's not the same thing being said on our show versus another show? But at the same time, because everyone's doing Rugby World Cup, maybe we shouldn't have that focus. Maybe we should go in another way, because you will get your full of Rugby World Cup in the news, on the radio, in TV. So maybe we should step back from that. Forward planning, like the World Stroke Days and the Breast Cancer Awareness Months and the
mental health awareness.
Yes.
So you're looking at health calendars and all of those.
Yeah, okay. We absolutely do. And then also being mindful. So in radio, there's a lot of light and shade, or light and dark, that you sort of toggle with when you plan the show. And so it's like, this conversation can't happen on a Friday. It's a bit too heavy for a Friday, but it can't also necessarily happen on a Monday, because, you know, you've just had a long weekend. Maybe you're still dealing with work mode. So maybe let's put this kind of conversation on a Wednesday. Maybe it's a little bit sort of hump day, mid-week, something to ponder, something philosophical. Okay, let's have it on a Wednesday. And then how much time will we need? Because that's part of the forward planning, right? To get the expert that we need for this conversation. Well, is this something that we can do once a month at the end of the month? Or could we plan this 2 weeks from now? Also, trying to think now. Yeah, like I mentioned about news, trying to compete with other shows. So I'm trying to think of an example now. It was midterm budget speech.
Yeah.
So what the other show's done? Oh, they're taking the speech live. Oh, they're speaking to the finance minister. Oh, they're speaking to so and so. Okay. So how will the budget affect those on the ground? So let's speak to an NGO. Let's speak to a GOA or to Agri-SA.
Activists or whatever else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that rather, as opposed to taking the speech live or whatever, or having a report on the ground, tell us what Mr. Korongwana has to say. Let's do some things different. So that's generally how we do it. The news element is very much chasing on the day or the night before or 2 days before, and then trying to find the guest that you want. Now, you were asking about finding the right people for the show. Because of my feminist principles and because of what I went through growing up, I've made it my mission to actively choose women of color who we have as a rep. It's very, very important to me, because representation completely and truly and wholly matters. And you want to see someone that you relate more to people that look like you, that speak your language, that you want to see that, right? So, and hear it. You want to hear, oh, okay, that woman looks like me and she's a doctor. I like that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm lucky in that I have a team where we do that sort of mix, where my colleague Walid will say, look, we've done, let's say, 3 women this week. I have this one guy that I really like, or, you know, we haven't spoken to someone, we haven't spoken to a disability activist in a while. So there's that nice balance where we can back to one another, where he'll say, but we do need the male perspective, and I'll say, but we do need the female perspective, or whatever the case may be. But that is a huge mission for me, to have more people of color on the show. It's difficult, because trying to find something that's really difficult, and as we spoke about it earlier on, about dealing with yourself and healing yourself, imposter syndrome in the workplace is huge. So sometimes out to a guest and they're perfect, they have the qualification, they've done the work, they've been on the ground, but they don't believe in themselves. And I say that yes, they believe in themselves, but they don't think they have
the expertise to speak about this. No, I get it. I totally get it. I can be in my space how long, and I'm like, don't you want to ask someone else? I know what you're talking about.
And it's so sad, because it's like, no, but you're the perfect person. We must have your voice on air. So sometimes it takes, sometimes you weigh it up, especially when deadlines are looming. Do I want to have the story done, or do I want the right person for the story? You have to weigh that up. And sometimes it means, for me, extra work, where I have to sit down with this person, this woman, or whoever, and say, please understand, we're not here to hound you. We're not here to make you look stupid. That's not at all what we want. We want your expertise. These are the talking points that we will give you. Please understand that it's just a guideline for the conversation that we're having. It's a conversation. It's not a Q&A drill down of. And
not all about the stats. There has to be some practical element. Yes, you've done this, and you're speaking to normal people as opposed to speaking like a scientist right now. Okay.
And that's where your interview will come in, where you get that sense of, is this the right person for this conversation? How confident are they in their topic? And can they sort of like make it real, make it creative? Will it translate nice on or on will you get that radio magic? And then sometimes the person is perfect, but they need just maybe 1 or 2 more media training sessions, and then they'll be well on their way. And sometimes all that has to be is to do an article in the newspaper or for the magazine, because it boosts the confidence, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that waiting it out a bit. Also, there has been times for myself where you just get the person at the wrong time. And so like for myself, now that I'm older and a little bit wiser, I'm very mindful of 6, 7, 8. This time is like death hour for a lot of women. We've just got to work, we're cleaning, it's all of this. So let's be a little bit clever now. Yes, you want to meet your deadline, but don't ask now, because the timing is not going to work. So having that sort of, but that comes with doing things over and over and over and over and over again. And that's where I really appreciate, I think it's Dr. Malcolm Gladwell talking about 10,000 hours. Doing that thing repetitively and consistently, it really, honestly, just putting the effort in, putting the work in, you do get a return on investment. So yeah, and then for me personally, sometimes I choose the stories because I'm interested in them. Like, yes, the Boko were in France, but there's bed bugs in France. How were there bed bugs on planes? How were bed bugs? How does this happen? I don't understand. Yeah. So then, because I'm interested, we will then reach out a dermatologist or a pest control expert just to understand why behind something. And if I'm interested, there is surely someone else that is wondering the same thing as me. Then of course, our listeners are so interactive and informed and interesting, and they will give suggestions and say, don't you want to speak to someone? I'll be like, you're so clever. Absolutely. That's so brilliant. Why didn't you think of that? That's so clever. And then that's how we like build a story. And then sometimes you find this person, and then they will refer you to someone who's just the gem. And they'll say, yes, I'm a professor, or yes, I have this doctorate, but you actually should be speaking to, let's say, the rural women's movement. They are the right person for this conversation. So yeah, that's how it happens.
The power of social capital and networking, huh? This is how you ended up here, right? You know this. So I got your details from Kath McGroby from Coke This Woman Plus. So can you see the magic right there?
But you know what, and this is part of unlearning and feminism, where you put up your hand and you say, I'll do it. I'll do it. You overcome. Like, there's been many times where you reaching out to me, I was so anxious, like, oh my word, me, why me? But I told myself, this is my year of yes. This is my year of doing, even if it scares me, even if I don't feel prepared, I'm just going to do it. And I've really realized that's where the gold is. That's where the magic is. That's where I start to feel like a child again, where, I'm learning to ride a bike, and that pure joy in your foot is on the pedal and you're getting it right. And I'm doing this. That is happening now. So it's just joyous. It's just beautiful.
Fantastic. I'm not even going to ask you any more questions, because my last one would have been about the message, but you just said it. Just say yes and just take the experiences. And I think that's a brilliant note to end on. Thank you so much for your conversation. I've loved it. Your personality, I hope everyone can see it. I mean, I haven't met you in person, but you are sparkling. And yeah, I just loved it. So thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom.
Oh, so much for speaking to me. I love this so much. So much. Thank you. Thank you, Danae.
My pleasure.